Hello, everyone, and welcome to our discussion on navigating climate challenges in Sub-Saharan Africa. My name is Priscilla, and I'm joined by my team members Erica, Anthony, Carolyne, and Kingsley. Together, we're going to explore the critical impacts of climate challenges in this region and present a unique aspect each, which will contribute to a holistic understanding overall. This presentation is structured into 4 key sections, each addressing a crucial aspect of the impact that climate change has in this region. And let's take a quick look at what each section will cover. So first, we're going to begin by focusing on the ecological impacts and observe how environmental changes are reshaping sub-Saharan Africa. Next, this is going to lead us to talk about human health impacts, where we're going to discuss both direct as well as indirect health challenges to identify those most at risk and understand the challenges that they face. Following this, we're going to explore various adaptation and mitigation strategies, which will showcase innovative solutions and resilience building measures. And finally, we're going to conclude with a discussion that synthesizes our insights and offers forward-looking perspectives on the region's future in the face of climate change. And each section is designed to provide a comprehensive perspective on the multifaceted impact that climate change has in this region. Before we jump in, I want us all to be inspired by the empowering words of Wangari Maathai, who implored us not to tire or give up because we owe it to the present as well as future generations of all species to rise up and walk in order to overcome our current climate crisis. And our goal in this presentation is to meticulously address climate change in sub-Saharan Africa by examining its multifaceted impact on vulnerable populations, ecological systems, and human health to explore robust adaptation and mitigation strategies that aim to foster resilience as well as sustainability. And with the focus on informed action and hope, we're now going to turn to Anthony, who's going to shed light on the complex dynamics affecting the region's ecological habitats.
Hey all, I'm Anthony and I'll be going over the impacts of deforestation and higher atmospheric CO2 on the climate of sub-Saharan Africa. I'll be mainly focusing on deforestation since the tropical forest and forests of sub-Saharan Africa have approximately 90% of the continent's biodiversity. Cocoa and palm agricultural expansion is representative of a large decrease in forested areas. Logging under international concessions holds roughly 600,000 square kilometers in Central Africa, and currently only 12% of the forests in Central Africa are protected. Ivory Coast, depicted in the image, has suffered extensive loss of forests due to the conversion of many of these lands to cacao production. The overall demand for cacao is responsible for the conversion of 30 million hectares between 1988 and 2008. Forests are a major carbon sink that holds CO2 from contributing to atmospheric CO2, and roughly 40% of terrestrial carbon is contained within these tropical forests. The reduction of forest areas will lead to increases in regional temperatures of 1 to 2 Celsius, in some accounts even up to 100 kilometers away from the forested regions. With continued loss of forest regions, precipitation is predicted to decline overall. Current models estimate with remaining regions intact, precipitation will increase except for southern Africa. As climate warms, southern Africa is expected to become more arid and succumb to even to desertification. Bushmeat harvesting is another major contributor to forested regions' capability to regenerate, as many African tree species rely on large mammals for seed dispersion. Loss of ecosystem services such as reducing soil erosion, carbon absorption, and overall regional resilience will be lost, and many regions will become more arid, collapsing remaining fragmented forested regions. You need these ecosystems to rebound to reverse the impacts of climate change, and reducing these services only expedites climate change on this continent. Increased levels of atmospheric CO2 will contribute to more intense heat waves, reduce precipitation frequency, and increase evapotranspiration. This will lead to resource scarcity amongst many ecosystems in sub-Saharan Africa, and it will end up impacting tree mortality. Increased CO2 will also promote more vegetation growth. However, this is limited by nitrogen fixation. Microorganisms fixate atmospheric nitrogen in soils, but is associated with plant life, which means more plant life would create nitrogen deficits in forests. Increased CO2 will only benefit plane flight to a point. However, higher temperatures and less precipitation frequency will negatively impact forested regions via wildfires and droughts. As the graph depicts, it expresses the prediction of a model between 2071 to 2099 of air aridity indexes across sub-Saharan Africa. Southern Africa and Central Africa will be significantly impacted by climate changes by increasing aridity. The savannas of sub-Saharan Africa are the most susceptible ecosystems on the continent since they are already arid environments, and precipitation changes and higher temperatures will lead to desertification in the region. The loss of forested areas of sub-Saharan Africa will significantly degrade the continent's natural resources and ecosystem services, which will alter regional climate by increasing local temperatures and alter precipitation patterns. The loss of these forests will almost eliminate most of the continent's biodiversity, causing cascading failures to the remaining forested regions in Africa. Forests provide resiliency to the effects of climate change that we are currently seeing now, and degradation of forested ecosystems of sub-Saharan Africa will contribute to atmospheric CO2 and change regional climate to more arid environments. This ultimately leads to homogeneous of species and decline in biodiversity ecosystems as forests degrade. Thus, it is in the interest of sub-Saharan Africa to conserve these remaining forests to prevent extreme impacts of climate change and sustain biodiversity to maintain these ecosystems. Next up is Human Health Impacts by Carolyne.
Thank you, Anthony. Climate change has impacted the lives of people all over the world. The effects of climate change are evident, and it can be shown how there is reshaping in human health. I will base this part of our research on sub-Saharan Africa, where climate change causes temperatures to rise and the weather patterns to shift. Due to the relationship between climate, environment, and human health, the lives of people are affected by climate change. This part of the presentation explores the particular impacts of climate change on human health in this region. Due to human activities, there has been an increased rate of desertification. This has caused climate to change and in turn affect the arable land that turns into desert. This leads to less available land for food production, and less food for the communities leads to affected health among the population. There is also wildfires that regularly occur due to their high heat waves and have negative effect on the lives of the people. This is due to the ecosystem damage, making the population inhale bad air quality. This affects breathing system and hence health is affected due to the climate change. Due to climate change, there have been specific weather conditions that have led to serious health hazards in sub-Saharan Africa. These weather trends include temperature, changes in precipitation patterns, heat waves, and wildfires. Due to these weather conditions, there are occurrences like drought, floods, desertification, and wildlife deaths. Droughts are caused by prolonged low rainfall. The scarcity of water reduces the food supply, and this will lead to poor diet intake by the people in this region. Poor diet leads to poor health among the people. Through previous research conducted in sub-Saharan Africa, there are several health risks associated with climate change. There are new climate-related diseases that are appearing in this region. Due to the change in climate, there are vector-borne diseases, and this is due to the fact that climate change has led to the creation of a better habitat for the vectors that spread the diseases. A recent example is the rise in malaria and the dengue fever in the Ethiopian highlands. This is very challenging to the healthcare systems in place, making them overstretched in the service delivery because of infrastructure in the healthcare system. Waterborne diseases is another outcome of climate change in this region. Waterborne diseases are majorly transmitted through the drainage water system. The water system has to be contaminated by these germs to spread the diseases. The contamination usually occurs during floods. The water sources get contaminated by the flood water, and this leads to an increase in the risk of waterborne illnesses. It is rarely discussed, but climate change can also lead to mental health challenges among the people. The extreme weather conditions that are a result of climate change make people anxious and unsure of the future. These worries over a long time lead to the development of mental health issues. Others find it hard to accept situations like flood destroying all their property and way of life. Due to the denial and acceptance of the destruction, mental health issues start to develop. It's high time to take care of the environment so that we can prepare a better future for the future generations.
Thank you, Carolyne. Greetings, class. My name is Kingsley Adams, and I'd like to present adaptation and mitigation strategies in the Sub-Saharan Africa section. What if I told you that you can determine soil moisture content using sensors from space? Or that scientists are researching ways to genetically select livestock based off methane emission behavior? You're going to find out these details over the next several slides, so let's dive right in. So as we look at the first slide here, adaptations and mitigations through the livestock systems playing a role. They're adapting to improve productivity. And how are they doing that? Well, the small livestock groups have a higher greenhouse gas level, and this is due to general awareness and training. These smaller livestock groups can improve their productivity by leveraging coordinated projects and becoming more aware of how the market for food and fuel operates. They're also going into risk management and diversification strategies. And the way they're doing this, these mixed small farms are leaning towards risk management by diversification and sustainable intensification. What that basically means is that they're utilizing risk management in order to better calculate crop yields and everything else that goes into running the farm. If you look at the figure on the right, it basically shows the direct effects of climate change on the overall livestock production. And one interesting mitigation and adaptive strategy includes purchasing more heat-tolerant livestock species in the future. One of my favorites, remote sensing. This is a great tool that mitigation and adaptive techniques that these small livestock farmers can utilize given the access that they may have. Remote sensing captures the critical vegetation characteristics that involve all those details that make up biochemical and physical attributes of the ecosystem services. Two examples from remote sensing satellites are MODIS and SPOT. They're just several examples that can be used to quantify ecosystems, and most of the images are actually free. And this is a great resource for small livestock farmers to show potential soil improvements based off historical data. And UAVs and haze interference, this technology here also provides great resolution that's able to provide quantitative results for local ecosystems and detailed urban environments. And this will also allow decision-making and policy planning a smoother process. This brings us to our last slide, methane emissions and mitigation strategies. Now, the rumen basic functions. What is a rumen exactly? Well, cows are referred to as ruminants because the large stomach is actually called a rumen. This allows the cow to consume large quantities of grass. So think of a rumen as a rich microbial ecosystem, which is literally colonized by billions of microbes that degrade the properties within the feed, as you see to the image on the right. The rumen converts the feed to volatile fatty acids, which are a primary energy source for the cows. The methane release is what we know as the end product, and this takes away the energy from the cow, essentially. And livestock feed alternatives involve small livestock farmers they're typically led to small water resources such as pens and man-made facilities. So a mitigation strategy is in the works to actually take small livestock grazing to actual ponds and other large water bodies for nutrient growth and runoff. And there is actually a genetic selection for low methane solution. There's research involved behind this that involve mitigation development, identifying ruminants with a genetically low CH4 or methane release biomarker. So this future research would involve correlating biomarkers with genetic traits of low emitting CH4 ruminants. Thank you all. I will now be followed by Priscilla, where she will be discussing cellular agriculture as a solution, and then wrap us up.
Thanks, Kingsley. My name is Priscilla, and I'm going to be taking it over from here. And as a last point, I just want to add on, I want to talk about the groundbreaking approach that could significantly impact food security in Sub-Saharan Africa, cellular agriculture. Now, what is cellular agriculture? Well, another name for it is cultured meats or cultured foods, and it's an innovative method involving the production of animal-sourced foods through cell cultures. This technology offers a sustainable alternative to traditional meat production. The resilience of cellular agriculture to supply chain disruptions, as pointed out in a recent MIT study, makes it particularly relevant in our current climate crisis. Its adaptability to changing market demands provides a stable food source, which is crucial for regions like this one that we're talking about, where food security is clearly a persistent challenge. This technology has the potential to further develop this vulnerable region of Sub-Saharan Africa. And most notably, the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, report includes cellular agriculture as a strategy to limit pressures on natural resources. And this inclusion, based on research funded by New Harvest, which was conducted at the Tufts University Center of Cellular Agriculture, marks a significant milestone in this technology. It underscores the global recognition of cellular agriculture as a credible intervention in the climate crisis. And to further support this new innovative solution, there are currently research and development which is being pioneered by the University of Nigeria, as well as two startup companies in South Africa. They're called Mzanzimi and Mogalimi, whose mission statements are all aligned with combating both the climate and food security crisis in Sub-Saharan Africa. In conclusion, cellular agriculture represents a transformative approach to address the food security challenges in Sub-Saharan Africa. It integrates technology, economic viability, and the environmental sustainability, making it a vital avenue to watch in our fight against the climate crisis. And in the following slides, I'm just going to summarize what we've talked about and wrap us up here. Now, let's recap the key points made by my colleagues for this important discussion. For ecological impacts, Anthony illuminated the dire consequences of deforestation, from the expansion of cocoa and palm agriculture to the disruption of carbon sinks and regional climates. These actions not only precipitate biodiversity loss, but also alter precipitation patterns, which critically undermine the ecological integrity of Sub-Saharan Africa. Carolyne's explanation of the human health impacts shed light on the harsh reality that climate change is no longer a distant threat, but a present-day crisis, and it's causing an increase in malnutrition rates and the expansion of malaria transmission zones, which is posing an unprecedented challenge to public health infrastructure. And lastly, in Kingsley's adaptation and mitigation research, we were introduced to avant-garde strategies that hold promise for a sustainable future, diversification in agricultural practices, the implementation of remote sensing for effective environmental stewardship, and my mentions of the pioneering of cellular agriculture. They all exemplify the ingenuity required to mitigate the impacts of climate change. In conclusion, we've explored the multifaceted challenges of climate change in Sub-Saharan Africa, spanning from ecological impacts, human health risks, and the necessity for a robust adaptation and mitigation strategy. Our exploration underscores the urgent need for a comprehensive and sustainable solution to safeguard both the environment as well as the well-being of the communities across this region. As we look ahead, it's clear that collaborative efforts, innovative approaches, and a commitment to environmental stewardship will be paramount in navigating the climate crisis. And let us carry forward the insights gained and work towards a resilient and sustainable future for Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you.